Hello, welcome back to the virtual learning. And today I'm going to continue with the chapter Indigo. And last time we stopped, you know, where Gandhi was able to influence uh, Rajendra Prasad and his group of lawyers in, fighting for the cause of Indian sharecroppers. And after having, you know, uh, got the support or the willingness of the lawyers to follow Gandhi even to jail, he announced that the Battle of Champaran is won. Right. So the Battle of Champaran is in the process, but Gandhi had this belief that the conflict is going to be won, or the case is going to be won by the Indian sharecroppers, uh, led by Gandhi, right? Because he not only had the support of Indian sharecroppers who are illiterate, uh, but he had also the support of the educated lawyers. All right, so so I'm going to continue with the paragraph which from which we are supposed to start with. All right, so since some of the students had this issue, had this problem of not having the textbook and the the letters on the screen not being too big for them to read, so I have enlarged the font size and hope this helps you, right? So now the paragraph starts with: several days later, Gandhi received a written communication from the magistrate informing him that the lieutenant governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. Civil disobedience had triumphed the first time in modern India. Now, if go back a little, we know that Gandhi was um, summoned or called in the court, and the judge could not deliver the decision because he needed to consult the higher authorities, and even after 2 hours of recess or 2 hours of break, they could not deliver the judgment. All right, so after several days, Gandhi received a notice, a written communication, means a letter from the magistrate informing Gandhi that Lieutenant Governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. That means there was no such accusation against Gandhi. All right. So the case in which Gandhi was involved for having disobeyed the law given by the superintendent of police was dropped. All right. Okay. So civil disobedience had triumphed. Civil disobedience means disobedience is the opposite of obedience, all right? Obeying the law and disobeying the law. They are two contradictory words, right? So civil means, common people. The law that was not obeyed by civil had triumphed. Triumph means had become victorious, right? So when the case against Gandhi was dropped, that was that indicated that Gandhi had won, or the disobedience that he had initiated, he had practiced, he had followed, had become glorious, right? The first time in modern India. So that was the first time in modern India uh, for civil disobedience to have triumphed, all right? So Gandhi, after coming to India, Champaran episode, you may call this chapter as Champaran episode. It was the first time for Gandhi to have triumphed such, disobedience, right? Okay, so next paragraph. Gandhi and the lawyers now proceeded to conduct a far-flung inquiry into the grievances of the farmers. Now, Gandhi, being a free man, and the lawyers who followed Gandhi now continued to, investigate more details into the sufferings of the farmers. Depositions by about 10,000 peasants were written down. Depositions means a written document, all right, on which the the farmers sign or give thumbprint to indicate that such and such evident or such and such cases are true to their knowledge, all right. So by about 10,000 peasants were written down and notes made on other evidence. So Gandhi and the group of lawyers were able to collect about 10,000 peasants and their proofs of injustice being done or being borne uh, by these Indian sharecroppers, right? And documents were collected. The whole area throbbed with the activity of the investigators and the vehement protest of the landlords. Now you can imagine the entire place, Motihari, Champaran, Muzaffarpur, everyone was involved, was so like chaotic, the Indian lawyers led by Gandhi busy collecting documents or evidences against the injustice done by the British landlords, and the even the British landlords also kind of protested against such investigations done by the Indians, right? So it was like the entire area was full of activities. Well, all right. Okay. In June, Gandhi was summoned. Summoned means called to Sir Edward Gate, the Lieutenant Governor. Before he went, he met leading associates and again laid detailed plans for civil disobedience if he should not return. So, in the month of June, Gandhi was called to the office of Sir Edward Gate, who was then the lieutenant governor. Lieutenant means it's more of like a deputy governor. All right. So before he went to meet Sir Edward Gate, he met the leading associates, means the people such as the group of lawyers who are into the investigation process. He met them, and then they chalked out plans, detailed plans. If Mahatma Gandhi did not return, or if he was to be arrested or put behind bars, then such and such things should be done in his absence. So great detailed plans were laid out, right? Next, Gandhi had protracted interviews with the lieutenant governor, who, as a result, appointed an official commission of inquiry into the sharecroppers' situation. Uh, After meeting lieutenant governor, for the first time, they had several meetings. That means the number of meetings that took place between Gandhi and lieutenant governor was four. All right. So protracted means prolonged, lengthy meetings. All right, not just once, but four times. Right. So the meeting was not just for half an hour or 1 hour, but for lengthy duration, for a prolonged meeting. All right. So Gandhi had met lieutenant governor for four long meetings, and because of those four meetings, the lieutenant governor appointed or started an official commission of inquiry. Now he started an organization or a commission of inquiry. Its duty is to start inquiring into the sharecroppers situation, right? So the commission consisted of landlords, government officials, and Gandhi as the sole representative of the peasants. So the commission, after having started the official commission, the members of the commission included people like landlords, some of the landlords, officers from government, and Gandhi was the sole representative, means he was the only representative representing the farmers, right? The next one, Gandhi remained in Champaran for an initial uninterrupted period of 7 months and then again for several shorter visits. So Gandhi, when he was taken by Rajkumar Shukla from Calcutta to Bihar, he thought that the visit would take just few days, but he never imagined that he would have to stay in Bihar for a period of 7 months. And after having finished his work there in Champaran, he had to visit Champaran again for several shorter visits. All right. So the visit here is being referred to the first visit which Gandhi went with Rajkumar Shukla, all right, and it was undertaken casually. He never thought that the Champaran episode would take such a long duration of his life, all right, almost 7 months, right, and then of an unlettered peasant. So here, unlettered peasants means illiterate peasant. That is none other than Rajkumar Shukla. In the expectation that it would last a few days, occupied almost a year of Gandhi's life. So Gandhi never thought that the very first visit would cost him 7 months in Champaran or in Bihar. He thought that it would take just a couple of days or several days, not more than that. But it took him almost a year. That means out of 12 months, 7 months means almost a year. All right. Next one, the official inquired. I'll highlight the official inquiry assembled a crushing mountain of evidence against the big planters, and when they saw this, they agreed in principle to make refunds to the peasants. But how much must we pay? They asked Gandhi. So the commission of inquiry had collected great amount of evidences against the big planters. Big planters means British landlords, right? Proving that they had indeed done great injustice to the Indian sharecroppers. And when they realized that they are now kind of caught, they decided to make refunds or pay some compensation, right? But they do not know how much should they pay. All right, so they asked Gandhi how much money or how much compensation should the landlords pay to the Indian sharecroppers, right? Because now they are guilty, because the commission had collected a crushing mountain of evidence, means a whole lot of evidences against the British landlords, all right? Okay, the next one, they thought he here refers to Gandhi, he would demand repayment in full of the money which they had illegally and deceitfully extorted from the sharecroppers. Now, the British planters or British landlords thought that Gandhi would ask for the entire repayment or entire money that they had cheatingly or they had illegally or forcefully uh, taken from the Indian sharecroppers. Right, so they feared that Gandhi would demand the amount to be paid in full, right, full amount. Okay, he asked only 50%. Who? Gandhi asked for only 50%. Suppose I'm just giving an example. If the British landlords had, extorted or had forcefully, robbed Indians of, say, like 500 rupees, all right, just an example. They thought that Gandhi would ask the British landlords to pay the Indian farmers the entire 500 rupees, but Gandhi demanded only 250 rupees. That is the 50% of 500, right? So there he seemed adamant. Adamant means determined, all right? Writes Reverend J. Z. Hodge, a British missionary in Champaran who observed the entire episode at close range. So J.Z. Hodge happened to be in Bihar on a mission to spread Christianity. All right. So he had written in one of his books or in one of his report that when Gandhi demanded the 50% amount or 50% of money to be returned to Indian farmers, Gandhi seemed to be so adamant, so determined. If he had asked for 50%, he would not ask more than that or less than that, exact 50%. All right. Okay, so thinking probably that he would not give way, the representative of the planters offered to refund to the extent of 25%, and to his amazement, Mr. Gandhi took him at his word, thus breaking the deadlock. So, you know, one of the British landlords, you know, realized that Gandhi uh, would not give way, right, or would not, you know, uh, change his mind. He offered that even though Gandhi demanded 50%, but he offered that they could pay only 25%. All right. So taking the same example, 500, Gandhi asked for 250 return. So one of the British landlords uh, told Gandhi that they could pay only, now 250 divided by 2, 100 and uh, okay, 25%. All right. So Gandhi thought that, sorry, British landlords told Gandhi that they could pay only 25%, even though Gandhi demanded 50%. And to his surprise, the landlord's surprise, Mr. Gandhi took him at his word, thus breaking the deadlock. Right? So Gandhi accepted even the 25% offered by the British landlord. And thus breaking the deadlock means Gandhi put an end to the process of, postponing the process. All right. When a British landlord suggested that they could pay only 25%, Gandhi agreed. So that was the end to that process. All right. Process of, or, issue of paying compensation. All right. Next one. This settlement was adopted unanimously by the Commission. Gandhi explained that the amount of the refund was less important than the fact that the landlords had been obliged to surrender part of the money and, with it, part of their prestige. So the settlement, that was like, payment of 25% to the Indian sharecroppers by the British landlord was, unanimously means was agreed by many people. All right. And it was even agreed by the members of the commission. All right. So Gandhi later on explained that uh, somebody might have asked why he had accepted 25% though he demanded 50%. So Gandhi provides an explanation. All right. That money is important, but more than money, the prestige of the landlords, the self dignity, the self esteem uh, was more important than the money, because the landlords had to part with their money, but along with money they had to surrender their ego, they had to surrender their self-esteem, their prestige. Right. Therefore, as far as the peasants were concerned, the planters had behaved as lords above the law. So with regard to the treatments of the peasants by British landlords, they treated the peasants as if the British landlords themselves were above the law. That means they do not, abide by the law. All right. Now the peasants saw that he had rights and defenders. He learned courage. So there was a change in people's perception, attitude towards life. All right. The peasants realized that he had rights. Rights means, fundamental rights. And if, like somebody bullies him illegally, he knew that he had defender. All right, and then later on he learned to be courageous. Okay. So the aim of Gandhi's making the Indians fearless has been achieved here. The Indian farmers learned to be courageous. They knew that they had their rights, and uh, they had their own defenders or supporters. Right. Next one. Events justified Gandhi's position. Within a few years, the British planters abandoned their estates, which reverted to the peasants. Indian sharecropping disappeared. So, uh, all the events kind of favored Gandhi. All right. So, whatever Gandhi did for the upliftment of these Indian sharecroppers, the situations favored him. All right, he was successful in achieving the dreams or the struggle that he had put in. Right, within a few years, the British planters abandoned their estates, which reverted to the peasants. So within few years, the British planters or the British landlords started abandoning or leaving leaving their lands, and they started returning back to England. All right, and then the land belonged to peasants, and gradually the history of indigo sharecropping disappeared from the history of Bihar. All right, okay. All right, I'll continue. Gandhi never contented. Hold on. Gandhi never contented or never satisfied with large political or economic solutions. Now, the reason why Gandhi came to Champaran or Bihar was to deliver justice to the Indian sharecroppers, which he was successful in getting justice for these people. Right now, the person should be happy, isn't it? Okay, my purpose is served. Right, but Gandhi was never satisfied with himself or with his success of bringing about justice, or getting justice for the Indian sharecroppers. All right, so he saw the cultural and social backwardness in the Champaran villages and wanted to do something about it immediately. So during his stay in Champaran, during his stay in Bihar, he realized that how backward these people were, right? Be it in terms of culture, be it in terms of social. So he saw, like a great backwardness in the way people live there. All right, so he wanted to do something about these people and bring about some changes in their lives. So he appealed for teachers. So Gandhi for sure knew one thing, that because of illiteracy, because of uneducated, these people face great trouble. All right, so he asked or he requested for teachers to volunteer. All right, he appealed. Huh? Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parikh, two young men who had just joined Gandhi as disciples, means as a student, as a follower, and their wives volunteered for the work. So, fortunately for Gandhi, two students, two of his students, that is Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parikh, and they both were married, and their wives also volunteered to teach the villagers, right? Okay, several more came from Bombay, Pune, and other distant parts of the land. So, not only these four, but several other people started coming from Bombay, Pune, and other different parts of India. All right, to help Gandhi. All right. Devadas, Gandhi's youngest son, arrived from the ashram, and so did Mr. Gandhi. So Mr. Gandhi was not all alone, right, in this contribution. He was, even the youngest son of his and his wife also joined him. All right. Okay, primary schools were opened in 6 villages. So primary schools means, starting from class 1 to 5. So uh, primary schools. Now the number of schools, primary schools were not mentioned, but in how many villages? In 6 villages, right? Primary schools were opened. Kasturbai taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. So Kasturba, who is the wife of Mr. Gandhi, sorry, started teaching the people about certain rules to be followed, or to be where people follow in ashram, the rules that people follow in ashram, rules regarding how to maintain oneself hygienic, and how to keep the society clean. All right, so she started giving lessons, or she started teaching people how to maintain one's own hygiene and keep the surroundings clean, right? Health conditions were miserable. Gandhi got a doctor to volunteer his services for 6 months. So Gandhi also realized that people suffered so much because of ill health, because of bad health, right? So Gandhi managed to get a doctor who volunteered to work for Gandhi as a volunteer for only 6 months, all right? Three medicines were available in those days, right? Castor oil, quinine, and sulfur ointment. Now, castor oil means it's a oil made from vegetable. Quinine means, hold on, it's a bitter colorless medicine, right? And sulfan ointment means it's an ointment which you apply for rashes, skin eruption, right? So anybody who showed a coated tongue was given a dose of castor oil. So, a person with bad health had tongue that is coated, that is kind of thick or has some kind of rashes. He would be given a dose of castor oil. Anybody with malaria fever received quinine plus castor oil. So anyone who reported about malaria or fever along with malaria, he would be given medicine like quinine plus quinine and castor oil. Anybody with skin eruptions received ointment plus castor oil. So anybody who developed skin rashes or skin related diseases would be given ointment and castor oil. All right. So Gandhi noticed the filthy state of women's clothes. So Gandhi also, during his stay in Bihar, noticed how dirty the women's clothes were, or how dirtily they stayed, right? He asked Kasturbai to talk to them about it. Now it involves women, so he could not go out there and advise the women to maintain one's own health, hygiene. So he thought that Kasturba would be better person to talk to them because both are female, all right? One woman took Kasturba into her hut and said, "Look, there's no box or cupboard here for clothes. The sari I am wearing is the only one I have." So such is the pathetic condition of people in those days. So Mrs. Gandhi was taken to one of the ladies' house, and then she showed around the house that there was no box, no cupboard, nothing. Everything was the entire room was empty. So the dress that she was wearing that day was the only dress that she had. All right. Okay, so I'll stop here. See you in the next video.